rounding the bend, nearing the end of Autoimmune Disease Awareness Month, and I woke up this morning having a flare, and I realized that I've never actually described what that means. So having a flare in terms of having an autoimmune disease, whether that be ulcerative colitis, rheumatoid arthritis, Crohn's, lupus, psoriatic arthritis, any of those sorts of things, having a flare means that you're symptomatic. So for people with rheumatoid arthritis, that means waking up with joints that are either red, swollen, painful, very stiff, or even hot to the touch. I don't get the heat very much. That's not something that happens to me too often. But I do wake up with joints that won't move, that just physically they are stuck, they are stiff, they will not move. What triggers flares? So lots of things can trigger flares. Overdoing it is kind of the number one thing. If I do a kind of workout that I've never done before, or if I do something excessive, like, sometimes I could get away with, like, if I'm traveling and I'm walking a lot, sometimes I can get away with walking like 9 or 10 miles over some city and it doesn't affect me at all. And then sometimes I wake up the next day and particularly my left hip is like, negative, I don't think we should have done that. So doing too much can certainly trigger a flare. Changes in the barometric pressure, oddly enough, changes in the weather will trigger flares sometimes. But the biggest thing for me is stress. So when I'm stressed out, and I am stressed out right now because the state of the world has made my work life very uncertain and very interesting, and things are changing day to day, and we are all pretty stressed out over it. I'm also immunosuppressed, so I'm in the high-risk group when it comes to this pandemic. And so the fact that I'm still headed into the shop every day and trying to serve my customers does bring up some anxiety. So, I know that can trigger flares for me, so I'm trying to be extra mindful. So this morning I woke up with a knee that wouldn't bend and an ankle that wouldn't bend that really hurt. So that meant that before I started picking up any weight this morning, before we focus on any of that, I try to see what kind of mobility, what kind of range of motion, and what kind of comfort I can create. So I get the body as good as it's going to be for that day in terms of mobility and in terms of pain, and then we start thinking about weight. Sometimes that's 10 minutes, sometimes that's 35 minutes. That's why I wake up so early. I know that I have to get into the shop at a certain point, and I never know how much time I'm going to need for that work that comes before the training. So yeah, a lot of it's planning. A lot of it is preparing for what might happen. I might wake up and have a really good morning and have an extra half an hour at the end to sit and have a cup of coffee before I head into the shop. And some days I need that whole 45 minutes just to get things moving and get things feeling comfortable. So yeah, that's what flares are like. Some are really minor. Today wasn't too bad. I managed to get moving, I managed to lift, you'll see in my videos. But, sometimes they're really, really debilitating. Some days it means I'm sitting on my bench doing my workout. Some days it means I gotta pull out my cane. That hasn't happened in a while. I've been pretty lucky. So yeah, if you have any more questions about rheumatoid arthritis, about autoimmune diseases, please feel free to ask them. I'm totally happy to answer this stuff. And I'm really grateful to all of you who have been responding to these videos. Thank you so much. Have a happy Tuesday.